conclusion that is satisfactory to all sides. But I think that the conversation will continue. That seems to be the indication right now. Despite the American delegation having returned and despite everyone saying, well, it didn't work, peace deal is not there on the table anymore. But I think that it'll just get prolonged. There may be periodic escalation, but then it'll go back again. Because it's very clear that the main interlocutors and the main protagonists in this believe that this is not going to serve a purpose and that it's best to stop somewhere and try and get the best out of whatever situation is being created.
What prompted such a muscular response from both Israel and America vis-a-vis Iran?
Well, see, it's very difficult to analyze this right now. The stated purpose of Israel and the stated purpose of United States of America, particularly as worded by President Trump, is very clear. They wanted regime change, is what Israel wanted. America partly regime change or bring regime to its ground, to its knees, etc. And they thought that they could do it. They've done it with other people, they've done it with other countries, and they thought they would pull it off here as well. But obviously ill-advised. It wasn't to happen. It can't happen with Iran. And for those who believed Iran would not cave in that easily, I think now there is validation and proof after 4 weeks of hostilities that Iran is still not in a mood to give in. And I think that's an indication that there was a very clear mistake made in assessing what Iran's resistance would be like.
Do you think that Trump was taken in by Venezuelan experience?
May well have. I mean, I think that you've got to understand President Trump to be able to analyze anything of this kind. Minus President Trump, your analysis would have been entirely different. With President Trump, your analysis has to be unique. And therefore, for me to say something today might seem completely inaccurate and wrong tomorrow because of what he may do between now and then. So I think you have to factor in something, what is sui generis, something of the kind of leadership that we've never seen in the world before. And that, I think, is very critical.
Hormuz blockade is going to cost Global South a lot. Iran has turned it into some sort of a toll plaza. Americans are now blockading it. The world is going to pay for the war which America wants to wage in Iran. Is there something which the Global South can actually do about it?
Well, I think when you say, can Global South do something about it? Well, you've got to identify who in Global South, who can be the voice of Global South. This was a remarkable moment for India to be the voice of Global South without giving up friendships that we have across the globe. We didn't have to give up friendships in Europe. We didn't have to give up friendships in West Asia. We didn't have to give up friendship with the United States or with Iran. We could have been the voice. But what perplexes me and which surprises me is that we talk of friendships, but we don't understand what a friendship is. Friendship is not just clicking your heels and saying yes to someone that you call your friend. You should be able to tell your friend that he is wrong. Wrong if for nothing else, morally wrong, but certainly wrong even from the point of view of the impact that it's having on you and your people. I think at least for that extent you have a right to speak to your friend, but I'm not quite sure that we've done it.
Are you saying that we didn't stand by Iran?
We've stood by Iran but hesitatingly. We've stood by America but hesitatingly. We've stood by Israel but hesitatingly. But we've got to analyze what is it that we have with Israel and what is the cost that we will have to pay if we told Israel that Israel is wrong. What is the cost we would have to pay if we advised Iran not to do what it's doing? What is the cost that we would have to pay if we told America that we couldn't agree with what it's doing, etc.? This was true about the European conflict, Ukraine and Russia, and this is true about the West Asian conflict.
But sir, even in context of Iran, India way back in 2006 voted against them. And a lot of critics then said that, we could have just been neutral and it should have sufficed.
But absolutely. Being neutral is a particular thing that you do. Voting against is a particular thing you do. But I do believe that there is an internal tension in our government, particularly in the MEA. I believe the old school diplomats who've grown up on a different mold of foreign affairs pull in one direction, and the political masters in this government pull in another direction. And it's the diplomats who have to remind this government that you can't just let go of Iran. We have too strong a bond and too strong a relationship with Iran. And if you look at it in terms of the geostrategic importance of Iran from our point of view, being part of the region, I think the hope that this government had that we could just put all our eggs in one basket of United States of America and we are through, that was completely wrong.
So a lot of critics say that Iran too has taken position that have not been in interest of the Indian state. For example, their statements on Kashmir or the position they took when the CAA agitation took place.
Well, this fits in with what I'm saying, that if you're a friend, it doesn't mean that you don't have a mind of your own. But if they have a mind of their own and yet want to be friends, all we can expect them to do is not to publicly talk of those things, but at least tell us. And we could then explain to say why something has become necessary. But you can't just simply want a friend to forget everything that they believe in, ideology or morality, etc., and just click the heels to you. You can't do that. Just for that reason, they shouldn't expect the same from us, that we will do everything their way. I remember when Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji and I went to Geneva Human Rights Commission, who was helping us there? It was Iran who was helping us there. And what was Iran saying to us then was, China, India and Iran can come together and we could change the entire situation in the globe. But of course, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't possible, and it wasn't feasible for us to say we'll take China into a loop on this, etc. But we did have Iran stand by us when half the world was willing to listen to Pakistan on the issue of Kashmir. Iran stood by us on Human Rights Commission. Iran stood by us. So Iran has stood by us in many things, but if there are some things on which Iran can't stand by us, we must understand and explain. But you don't go out and make a public display of displeasure with Iran, and you certainly don't go out and tell Iran that we will blockade you, we will join a blockade, we will endorse what somebody else has done to you. And therefore, perhaps a little bit late, but the government of India did convey its condolence, which is a good thing. And subsequently as well, as I understand, and I speak to Iranians, they tell me that government of India's position before hostilities began was different from their position once hostilities began. And I think that's very important, that if good sense prevailed on government of India, without losing anything on the American front, that's what diplomacy is about, and that's what non-alignment is about.
So are you saying that the response was late, slow?
Well, you can call it slow because in sequential terms it was slow. But the trouble is about the structure of our foreign policy. Our structure of foreign policy didn't permit us to act quickly, and that's why we didn't act quickly. So you can either just blame it on acting too late, too little, too late, or simply go back to the roots and say the structure of your foreign policy for the last 10 years has been in fault. And that needs to put right, whether you're talking about China or you're talking about the neighborhood or you're talking about the expanded neighborhood or West Asia or Europe. There is a problem with our structure, and that's the structure that we must address.
What is the problem with the structure?
The problem with our structure is that you've given up everything we believed in for several decades. You've given up non-alignment. Now, non-alignment is obviously no longer what it used to be in the times of the Cold War. Non-alignment has to change. India has changed, the world has changed, so non-alignment also has to change. But the fundamental principle of non-alignment, if you understand the fundamental principle, that doesn't need to change. Non-alignment means that you don't join anybody blindly, that you, on merits, you reach out to people and endure endure an element of values in your foreign policy. There is something called values, and those values is something we've stood by in the past. We stood by even when we were very close friends with the Soviet Union, and we've stood by that even in the most difficult times for the United States of America. But values and ensuring that you take autonomous decision. Now the word autonomy of decision making, autonomous sovereignty is repeated 1,000 times by this government. But unfortunately, in their actions, we don't see it at all.
So are you saying that we have taken a side?
We haven't even taken sides. We've just fallen between two stools. That's where we are. Where is India's voice today? Everybody's talking about Pakistan is able to get parties together. They may have succeeded, they may not have succeeded. But Pakistan of all countries is able to bring countries together to come, Iran and the United States, to come to their soil, to sit down and talk about peace. Who should have done it? This is something that should have come naturally to India. The voice of India when the Gaza massacre happened was missing. When the voice of India was missing, when this long, prolonged battle between Russia and Ukraine is continued, the voice of India was missing when Iran was attacked. Where was the voice of India? And how will India rediscover its voice is the big question.
I don't have a sense of FOMO, but in your opinion, how was Pakistan able to, get these two opposing parties together? But how did it get a skin in the game?
Well, it's very simple to understand that. They are willing to play vassal to the United States of America. We are not, and thank God we are not willing to play vassals, because if we did, that would be the complete disaster for our country. But since we don't play vassal, no, they don't want to talk to us. Well, if they don't want to talk to us, doesn't matter. We must hold our own ground. And coming back to the first question you'd asked me about Global South, if we had truly appeared to be the voice of Global South, we would have been heard. They would have come to us. They wouldn't have gone to Pakistan. So they've gone to Pakistan because Pakistan offered them something, not merely a venue, but offered them something more that they were looking for. And they are pretty isolated, so they will take anything from anyone that's coming.
Are you saying were we less vocal, or did we do less?
No, we just weren't there. I'm afraid we just weren't there. We were only talking about, please let our ships through. We won't be bad to you. Let our ships through. But is that all India deserved to do? India had a larger persona on the world stage. India should have exercised its presence on the world stage, and India must have said, look, this is what we think is the right thing to do. We should have intervened. Within hours of the hostility, we should have intervened. But what did we do? Our Prime Minister went to Israel. What for? Did we not know that Israel was going to have hostilities within a few hours of his visit to Israel? Did we not know that? And if we didn't know that, then that's a very, very, very terrible failure as far as our foreign policy assessments are concerned.
How do you look at our position in context of strategic autonomy? There are two war theaters which are active: Ukrainian war theater and now the Iranian war theater, Strait of Hormuz.
And we're autonomous of both those and oblivious of both those. We are only suffering. We have higher prices. We don't have our supply chains secure. We are not getting fuel. We are the ones who are suffering, but we have no voice. We haven't once said, please stop fighting. For our sake, if for nothing else, please stop fighting. But have we said that? When have we said that?
I think the Prime Minister has said a number of times that India stands for peace.
This is not the age of war, right? This is not the age of war. And if this is not the age of war, what did we do? What did we do in the past ourselves? Look, we've been questioned for not acting after the Mumbai attacks. We've been questioned. But we thought about it. We gave it a very, very serious thought. If you want to play a larger role in the world, you will have to take a lot of hits yourself if you want to play a larger role. But if you don't want to play a larger role, then the smallest hit that you get, please react. But then you will be like anybody else. India must first decide what is the role it wants to play, what is the character that it wants to develop and show to the world. Who does it want to speak for? What does it want to speak for? And when will it be ready to say that I will speak for what I believe is true and correct and I'm prepared to pay a price for it.
So what's the Indian challenge today? What are our opportunities?
Get
And do we
back
really have skin in the game?
Well, we have a skin in the game because if this war continues, and I hope that it will not, if this war continues, who are the sufferers? There are many countries that suffer, but we will suffer. We are the biggest sufferers. But not just the fact that we are sufferers. I mean, look at what's happening in Noida. Look at wages. Why are people complaining about wages? Because they can't make two ends meet. They can't pay for school fees, they can't pay for cylinders, they just can't look after their families. Now, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Is it because we can't handle our own economy? Or is it happening because there are pressures, international pressures on our economy which is costing this, etc.? So the question really is, do we need to go back to the drawing board? We'll need to go to the drawing board. We must first be sure about what we want to be and where we want to be, and then we must speak to the world.
Trump is the real issue in this war. Indian diaspora in America is very strong. It's rich, it's prosperous, but in this second term, it did not have that mitigating effect on Donald Trump in context to Indian interest, India's interest.
Well,
Why?
Clearly, because he's got an audience that he's addressing, which audience is not very comforting for Indian diaspora. It was very clear. You can't have everything all the time. You can fool some people sometimes, some people all the time, but not all people all the time. Now, this is true for anybody in any country, and it's true also about the United States of America, and it's true also about Indian diaspora. So the Indian diaspora is obviously in a state of being very puzzled. What do they do with the MAGA base of President Trump? They were much happier with Biden, they were much happier with Obama, etc. And they would be much happier with the government, which is different from the present government of the United States of America. The American government has chosen to support a particular base and are dependent on a particular base that can't possibly accommodate the Indian diaspora. I mean, that's very clear. So it's a matter of choice. And can we, as Indians, choose anybody else but the Indian diaspora? We have to choose the Indian diaspora. And we obviously have expectations of Indian diaspora, but you'll have to wait for the midterm elections.
Let me come back to the war theatre. You spoke on Israel. Israel, or the breakthrough with Israel took place when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. And the relationship developed in a very bipartisan way during his tenure, Vajpayee's tenure, Dr. Manmohan Singh's tenure. So it's not as if Israel came closer to India when a particular government was in power. I mean, say the relationship, the strength of the relationship developed in last 25 years in a very organic way. When we also needed them, maybe their weapons, their tech.
No problem at all. There is a strategic benefit that we get, and you just mentioned that, weapons for instance, where we don't have to do an ideological debate with them about getting weapons, which we end up doing with the United States of America. No use for this purpose, no use for that purpose, no transfer of technology. All those issues that come in with the United States of America don't come in with Israel. And therefore, there's an advantage Israel. Undoubtedly, there's an advantage. But do we need Israel more, or does Israel need us more? Big question. Big question. Did somebody from there have to come here, or did we have to go there when our Prime Minister visited Israel? Big question. I am not saying that you've made friends with somebody that we kept in arm's length from, an arm's length distance from. But the fact remains that despite our developing a relationship with Israel, we never diluted our relationship with Palestine. Our position on Palestine remained clear. Has it remained equally clear now in recent times is the big question. It hasn't. Unfortunately, it hasn't.
I think India, a number of times, both in UN, the MEA statements have been very, very clear on Palestine. That's
why I told you.
India stands for a political solution.
Our diplomats, we stand for a political solution. We stand for a two-state solution. Have we told Israel this? What did we tell Israel when we got the applaud for the Prime Minister's visit to their parliament? Did we say that, look, we've come here, but we want to tell you that we want a two-state solution? Did we say that?
Was it necessary?
Well, if it's not necessary, see what's happening to you. The point is, India must have the moral courage to speak its mind. If you believe in something, either give it up, or if you believe in something, you must be willing to say. Everything is not said everywhere. Everything is not repeated in public, but at least it becomes clear to whoever you are dealing with, your interlocutor, it becomes clear that that's the position you take. And you can agree to disagree, and you can even get appreciation from the other side to say, we appreciate that you have a sense of values, you have a sense of belief, and you have a sense of conviction. We appreciate that, but we'll be friends despite this. Can't we do that?
Let me get back to Iran. There's a very strong argument that Iran has been supporting proxies all across West Asia, whether it's been Syria or the Houthis in Yemen. You know, their proxies attack Israel and they do not acknowledge the existence of it. So it's an existential war for Israel.
No,
from river to the sea.
Sure, there's an existential war for Israel, understandable. But we've made it very clear, and we are not the only ones who made it clear. The Arabs themselves made it clear that time has come to move on, and time has come now to talk to Israel, and therefore bring Israel into the Committee of Nations, where you can sit down and say, this is the solution, instead of staying away completely and keeping your eyes shut to whatever is happening. A lot of things that have happened in Palestine, on that governments can have a view. You can support them, you can oppose them, you can express your reservation, etc. But what has happened thereafter in Gaza, nobody can support. I'm sorry, even the Israel population cannot support it, what has happened in Gaza. And today, because of war between US, Israel on one side and Iran on the other side, Gaza is forgotten. What is happening to the children of Gaza today? Are there schools and hospitals for them? Is there food, water for them? Are there shelters for them? Everybody is forgotten. And we are not saying, please, for the sake of Gaza, if nothing else, get back. Now, when you talk about proxies, people support proxies in the world. You don't have to agree with it. You can disagree with it. You can say what needs to be done. But you can't have one single thing as an excuse for saying, the larger issue is something that I won't interfere in and that I will not get involved in. The larger issue is what has to be addressed, because if the larger issue is addressed, all these issues of proxies and so on will get addressed as well.
And last question before I let go of you. What explains Iranian resilience? Is it civilizational, cultural? Does it emanate from the 1979 revolution?
Absolutely. I think when people say that there is a civilizational bond and link between India and Iran, when people say that Iran's attitude and Iran's defiance and resilience is based on their own civilizational understanding of themselves, and that the United States failed to understand this. Iran, and many countries may have similar attributes, but Iran is different from just any country. That civilizational depth of Iran was very important, and I think that's become apparent in their manner in which they've reacted to what would have been disastrous consequence for any other country in the world.
But they didn't get a lot of help from the GCC nations.
No, they didn't get help. They didn't get help because GCC nations unfortunately have been at the receiving end. Now, they may be at the receiving end not for what wrong they've done, but simply because the American bases and American entities have been hit in the GCC area, etc. And whether there's a larger cause for the GCC not to have American bases there is another matter, but Iran has certainly said that you remove your American bases and we will not attack, etc. But that's a much larger question. Who would provide security? Who would provide security? And I've heard them say, let India step in and provide security, because if India doesn't, China will step in. Now, India can't complain tomorrow that we can't provide security, but China must not get in. We can't be complaining. And why are the Americans there, etc.? And Americans can't say that we are spending so much money on you, you must pay us for all this because we are doing it for your sake. Americans must also accept that they're doing it for their own understanding of the global presence of the United States of America. And whenever they've got involved in a war on behalf of somebody else, there isn't been just an altruistic purpose. They've been involved in it for their own purpose as well. So who pays and where the costs will end is another matter altogether. But you've got to decide, as we have to decide in India, what is the role that you want to play in the world. Now, we've described ourselves of late as Vishwagurus. We've described ourselves as Vishwabandhu, friends of the world, etc. Where are we in this description? Is this description seen on the ground anywhere? How do we propose to show to the world?
During COVID, we supplied medicines to countries.
So we don't need to do anything more after that. We supplied medicines, but we don't need to do anything after that. Now, COVID is another discussion. On the COVID, we could say a lot of things as well. But good that we did supply medicine to Africa, but we do a lot for Africa. We do a lot for other countries as well. We do a lot in our own region, but that's not enough. You've got to go beyond embracing people. You've got to go and reach into their hearts and find out what they really want. And I think that's where we failed.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Others see a teenage tantrum. I see you standing your ground. I see you, my daughter, 16 and already owning your story. And I couldn't be more proud. For you, only natural diamonds.
हमें स्वस्थ रखने वाली सारी चीजें ज्यादातर शुद्ध होनी चाहिए। सूर्य की किरणें और स्वच्छ पानी, वैसा ही है लाइन अरेबियन डेट्स। और अब लाइन लाइना डेट्स, इसमें फाइबर्स और विटामिन्स भी कुदरती हैं, जो देता है स्वास्थ्य भी कुदरती।
Lion Lina Premium Dates.
Real power doesn't shout. It empowers. It leads by example. It walks the talk. And let actions speak the truth. Real power shines through you.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Ahead of 2026 West Bengal Assembly election, polarization in West Bengal sharpens.
टीएमसी सरकार के जाने का काउंटडाउन शुरू हो चुका है।
हम डिटेक्ट, डिलीट और डिपोर्ट ये पॉलिसी के तहत एक एक घुसपैठियों को बंगाल के बाहर निकालने का काम करेंगे।
There are three prime issues: citizenship, border, identity. Is it the Nirmam Sarkar versus May Day Babu?
যতই করো হামলা, জিতবে কিন্তু বাংলা।